Health Matters. I am really excited to have our guest, Keva Walton, who's the Chief Executive Officer for Mecklenburg County's ABC Board. And great to have you, Keva.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I didn't expect so many people. This is great.
Yeah, we had a good turnout for this. So you must be very popular.
No, please. That kind of popularity, I'm not so sure with what's going on in our stores. It's been a little interesting.
Yes. So today we wanted to focus on kind of continuing our conversation around the pandemic and how it's impacting people's lives, in particularly around seeing an increase in alcohol and substance uses. So I always like to start, Keva, by just asking how are you doing during this time? How have you fared over the last 18 months?
Well, I will tell you, I started this role in the middle of a pandemic. So
Wow.
My first day was June 8th. So, and people have asked, well, what's that like, starting a new role in the middle of a pandemic? Well, why waste a crisis? Let's just get to it. And so it's been fast and furious, and every day is different. Great team. Our biggest concern and still is the health and well-being of our teammates. They are on the front lines. We remained open during the whole thing. And we had to start an internal campaign to really help folks really be mindful of the protocols and masking and all of those things. But we are well.
Good. That's good to hear. And sometimes joining an organization in the midst of a crisis, you can really, dive right into it. So we're happy that you're in your role at the ABC Board.
Thank you.
And real quickly, just for transparency's sake, I do want to let our audience know that MHA is a grantee of the ABC Board. We appreciate so much your support of our mental health first aid and QPR suicide prevention training.
Yes. Glad to support that. That's, as we've seen, it was always important. Now it's even more important.
Right. Thank you. So we're seeing a lot of data coming from a variety of sources that's showing that there has been an increase in alcohol use during the pandemic. The Recovery Village did a survey, and in that they saw that 55% of the respondents reported an increase in the alcohol consumption over the past month, 18% reporting a significant increase, and 36 reported an increase in illicit drug use. And we know a lot of people are self-medicating. And so do you have thoughts on this data and why there has been, there is an increase during the past month?
Absolutely. And needless to say, we're seeing that same trend here in Mecklenburg. We'll certainly get into the particulars of that as we go forward. But, this may be a bit of an obscure thought, but I'll explain it as I go along. But I was thinking about it. Think about when you have a snow day at home. You're at home, you're enjoying your environment, you're with loved ones and family. And so you're in a much more relaxed state. And while this pandemic is no comparison to a snow day, I think those same feelings are there. You're at home, you're with your loved ones, you're enjoying the comfort of your home. And so it seems much less challenging to have more drinks because you're at home, you're not going to be driving, And so I think, initially it started as that, and then it has grown into isolation and a series of other things that impact mental health. But I think, from the comfort of your home, people felt a little more at ease about drinking or having one or two more drinks than normal. So that's how my initial observation. And then, the threatening and frightening thing about spirituous liquor is it's highly addictive. And I think we've got to remember that. And while it may seem great, let me have a drink, or it's a very social thing that we do is drink. But the addictive nature is very concerning, and we know it can slip up on some people.
So true. And, what you were saying, I read that boredom, being bored is one of the reasons that people have increased their alcohol consumption over the past 18 months. But of course, we also know stress and anxiety are an issue as well. I saw recently, I don't know if anybody in the audience has seen it, and please use the chat if you have a remark or question for Keva. I saw a commercial and was appalled. It was for a wine, and the woman was working on Zoom, and she was holding a folder up and drinking the glass of wine behind it.
Yeah.
I was just amazed that anyone thought that was a good idea, that people, were drinking wine while they're at work, obviously. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. So I do think that sometimes the way we portray alcohol in commercials, in the media, can diminish what you were just saying about the addictive nature of it.
Well, and how quick it is for us to normalize things.
Mm-hmm.
When we were, you got to get up and you've got to travel to the office and be on point for wherever your workplace is. You're in a different space than in, again, the comfort of your home. You're familiar, you're with people you're familiar with. And so, we've had, a year, 15 months of this. And so, the overused terminology of new normal. And so I think we're normalizing some new behaviors. And that commercial, I think, unfortunately, is something we have to be attentive to.
Yes. So we know that mental health issues and substance use issues often co-occur, sometimes as a way to cope and self-medicate. And as we've talked about, this has been heightened during the pandemic as more and more Americans, they've been struggling with anxiety and situational depression. What are your thoughts on this, Keva, on the link between mental health and substance use?
Yeah. Well, you said it very well. And, it's a lot. All of this is a lot. I mean, if you really stop to think about all that we're encountering on a day-to-day basis, sometimes an hourly basis, it's a lot. Sometimes it feels like we might be living in a movie, but it's reality. And so, I think people are looking for some sort of escape or self-medicating, coping, any of the list of strategies that we could name. And, unfortunately, and again, some people have the skills to manage it. Some don't. Some don't know what skills they have to manage addiction or the potential of addiction. And so that's why organizations such as yours and the programs you're doing and others are so important, because, any one of us could find ourselves in a place if we weren't familiar or not necessarily aware of our own limitations in terms of addiction.
Exactly. I think all of us could be, just like 1 in 5 are dealing with a mental health diagnosis. They're saying now it could be 1 in 2 because of all the stressors that we have on us.
Right.
Are there any resources out in the community that we can connect individuals to? And I know that ABC board is funding some organizations in there.
Well, proud to say, and unfortunately, not enough people know the real purpose behind ABC boards and the control system. Really, it grew out of prohibition era when, alcohol was criminalized. And so let's take away the criminal activity. But the true purpose behind ABC boards isn't just to be restrictive and limit people. It really is about health and safety. And so for this board, we're nearing 75 years of age. So we've invested, well, we just crossed the 100 million mark in terms of investing back into community, into substance abuse treatment, education, and prevention. And so for 75 years, we've been doing that. And I'm proud to say that this past July, August, the 1st of July, we awarded almost another $800,000 to local nonprofits in Mecklenburg who are in the substance abuse education treatment space. In addition to that, we've had a long-standing partnership with Anuvia, and just a phenomenal treatment, education, and prevention resource. And so, I'd encourage any of you to visit our website and learn about any of those grantees, like Mental Health of America, Central Carolinas, who received a grant, because they're all doing great work. And my guess is, of those, I think we got 15, 20 or so who received a grant, there's one in there that will work for you and your situation.
Yes, Anuvia is a great organization in the community, and Andrea's put a link to their website in the chat. So if anybody's looking for some resources, I would suggest connecting with them. And also, MHA loves partnering with all these organizations. And I think that's what's so important about this issue is collaboration between organizations and agencies, because it's such a huge issue that we can't tackle on our own. Before we move on, I did want to ask, is anyone in the audience have any questions for Keva, or any observations that you've seen over the past 18 months, whether it's in your work or your personal life? Carol, do you have? No?
Hello, Carol.
Sorry, I was on a call. I apologize. So I'm walking into something. I don't know what the
Oh,
question
no, that's
is.
fine. I was just wondering, in your work, Carol, what are you seeing around this issue? And
Oh,
Carol's
most
with Red
definitely.
Oak Recovery. Mhm.
Yeah, there's definitely been an increase in substance use across the board. We've been, one of the things that we don't do is detox. And so trying to find good detox facilities for our clients is always a challenge in our area, but absolutely it has ticked up over this last year and a half.
Do you see that as a need in the community, detox centers? Or
Absolutely. The problem with a young adult is they're typically pretty physically fit, and so they don't meet the criteria for all these other medical issues that are required for places like Mercy and their the place up in Morganton and those kinds of facilities. So yeah, it's always a challenge to try and find some detox for alcohol and benzodiazepines in particular.
it's so sad to think of young people who's
Yeah.
already facing addiction. And
Carol, what organization are you with?
It's Red Oak Recovery, and
Oh,
we're
okay.
located in Asheville, North Carolina, and
great.
we treat in a residential setting young adult women,
Yeah.
and then young men, and then we also have an adolescent program just outside of Charlotte called
Right.
Foothills.
Right. Yeah. It's again, the irony of me being here actually is, sometime years ago, when I was new to Charlotte, or relatively new, I actually was the chair of the Chemical Dependency Center Board, which is now Anuvia. And so maybe it was training for this role, maybe, I guess. But, and during my time on that board, we got to see very up close and personal, kind of the programmatic side, and hear the challenges to self and family and community that addiction brings. And it is a community issue. We are each other's keeper.
exactly. So Andrea, I think we have a couple of comments in the chat, if you want to share those or.
We do. Let's see. We have one that was sent to me directly. How would you address teletherapy and clients who want to drink a glass of wine? Sorry, that moved on me. At the end of their day during their therapy session.
Oh, wow.
Some would say treat it the same as in person, but the truth is they have access in their own home and don't have to drive home from the session.
Wow.
That might be something, you know, Carol, or if there's any clinicians, other clinicians on the call would want to contribute to.
It's one of the things that I always think about is, you know, what are the thoughts behind the behavior? And it's a quick solution. Doesn't last very long, and down the road it does create more problems, but it's always kind of that what they call stinking thinking that I think needs to be paid attention to.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I certainly have no idea from a clinical standpoint, but, you know, I think in this age of easy access and you know, we're all the beneficiary of online and home delivery. And, you know, we haven't got to that stage in North Carolina, but, you know, I know right now we're of course experiencing some supply chain issues and folks are concerned about that, and rightfully so. But, you know, again, I would just ask everyone to just stop and think about the consumption levels. It is really unbelievable. And I'll be honest in saying, new to the game, I thought, you know, once bars and restaurants opened, that perhaps maybe the sales in our stores might level off. Well, they both went hockey stick.
Wow.
And so part of the challenge, separate from supply chain, that's a real and big thing, and delivery and truckers and all of that. But off the charts consumption on the individual side and in the what we call mixed beverage on premise or bars, restaurants, hotels. And in a place like Charlotte, where, you know, hospitality is such a fundamental part of our economy. And it's important because that segment employs a large number of people, or it did before the pandemic reality, and hopefully they'll get back. But we all need to be a little mindful that, you know, there's a lot of alcohol being consumed right now. And
Go ahead.
no, I'm finished. Thank you.
No, Keva, I was just thinking about the comment that Andrea shared. It kind of goes back to your initial comment about we're at home, you know, we feel comfortable. For a lot of, I think it's impacting a lot of people's mental health that we don't have those boundaries right now between home and work. So, hey, I'm home, I'll just open the fridge and have that lunchtime glass of wine or whatever. But normally we would be getting in our cars and we never dream of having, well, most of us of having that drink in the office or something like that. So I think that kind of drives home the point you were making.
I would agree. I would agree 100%.
Yeah. So we had a couple of other comments as well.
Yes. One says, in my work, I've heard people joke about day drinking during the pandemic. But I'm pretty sure they're not kidding. I think it's mostly due to loneliness, as we have no meetings, and those we do have cameras are not involved.
Yeah.
Day drinking. Now, I have not heard that terminology before, but
Yeah.
you know, I think, you know, we're all seeing this pandemic is like the proverbial onion. The peel continues to unveil new realities seemingly daily. And you know, at one point it was binge drinking, and maybe it's similar, binge drinking and day drinking.
Mhm.
Time will
Yes.
tell, but you know, that's something to be very mindful of.
Do you want to share one more comment?
Yes. This one says, personally, I'm seeing those that self-medicate and in denial that they have a problem until it hits them physically down the road,
It's
still in denial.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, again, from my perspective, you know, I say this quite sincerely. We are each other's keeper, and you know, if everybody, you know, drinking responsibly has new, broader meaning now. Certainly, it is being responsible for your behaviors, not drinking and driving, and but now it's expanded to your circle. And how is your consumption impacting others' consumption, and really taking care. I mean, you know, it's I guess if we all paid attention to our own circles, perhaps maybe we could be more available and to those around us to just go, you know, is everything okay? You know, because again, I go back to this pandemic is a lot, and it's a lot every day. It changes, and I salute parents out there who have young ones who are in school and having to mask, no masks, you know, the uncertainty of school. That alone would just stress any, I think, normal person out just a whole lot.
Right. And we need to find healthy ways to alleviate that stress and anxiety and teach our children
Yeah.
those skills as well. As the executive over the ABC board, what would you like to see with regards to balancing the responsible use of alcohol and the trends we're seeing at this time? And you've touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll double down on that. Well, two things. You know, again, I'm very clear that we're challenged with shortages, and we're trying to supply our hospitality industry, and that's important for our economy. That's important for the people who work in that economy. So that is a priority. But individually, we've got to be aware of our own consumption habits and those closest around us, particularly our young people, because they tend to feel, you know, invincible. And I think maybe we all did at one point.
Well, you know, that frontal lobe hasn't fully developed yet. So.
Yeah. So, you know, and sometimes you know, it's not about telling, it's maybe just asking some questions for them to ponder, not in an accusatory way, but, you know, those open-ended questions that maybe cause someone to think. And just taking that personal responsibility. You know, we're very proud of our investment in community. That's a priority for us. That is kind of the essence of our being. Certainly, we want to see more grassroots kind of engagement. You know, hopefully in the months and years to come, we can, I think particularly about some of our distressed corridors that are out there, and you know, who are those partners that want to work in those corridors and help communities who may not be aware of a Mental Health America Central Carolinas or an Anuvia, but still need the help.
Exactly.
And so that's top of mind for me and our team.
Thank you. And I think Andrea shared a couple of our resources. We have our online screening tools. There is an addiction test, I believe, Andrea, on there that you can take if you're concerned about yourself or someone else. And maybe it would be a way to open up a conversation with someone doing the test and printing it out and saying, hey, I'm seeing this and my behavior or yours, I think I need to get help, or, you know, I'm concerned about you. And we also, our mental health first aid that ABC is helping to fund has a substance use and alcohol use component to it. So it's helping the layperson out in the community to recognize signs and symptoms and to be able to respond appropriately to them. So I think it's more important than ever that everyday people, you know, are aware of what's going on around us so we
Right.
can help those in our community.
Yes, yes, yes.
Glenfield, thank you for your comment about women are now drinking more than men. We're seeing this, and I, you know, as an older woman, we're seeing this in older 50 and older individuals more and more who are using more alcohol and substances. Again, I think to self-medicate, to deal with life's challenges, but really we need to be finding more and different, healthier ways to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know, Kathy, I would say forums like this, you know, perhaps we're all familiar with someone in our growing up. There was someone who had an abuse issue, but it was almost kind of like I won't say a joke, but we treated it lightly. Well, that's just Uncle so-and-so. That's just Mr. So-and-so. Well, we know what the repercussions of their addiction created in their lives. So we don't have to guess. And now again, with just, you know, again, we feel socially responsible because again, you know, part of our task is the socially responsible dispensation of spirits. And I know that's not popular with somebody to have this control system, but there's a reason for it, you know, so that we're not selling to underage and we're not selling to intoxicated folks. And that we take that again very, very, very seriously. Our law enforcement folks are out doing asset management classes with our on-premise mixed beverage customers so that their employees know when to identify intoxication. So, you know, it's a heavy lift in a place like Mecklenburg with 1 million+ people. No one entity can police all of this. So knowledge truly is power here, and equipping people in forums like this with knowledge and information is really critical.
And I hadn't thought about it, Keva, but if there are employees in the stores and under ABC that could benefit from mental health first aid, we'd be happy to do some training for you guys. And
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Don't give me an offer. I will call you.
well, we want you to. Yeah.
Right.
So I always like to end on a positive note. All of these, is there a bit of positivity you can leave us with today, Keva?
Yeah, you know, in spite of, you know, the heaviness of it all, you know, I really believe in the resilience of the human spirit and the ability of that spirit to not only self-sustain, but to sustain others. And, you know, and I've experienced as people have gone through recovery, that's what they tap into to really bring them through. And I think as a people, and I use that broadly, we all have that capacity. And so I'm believing and trusting in that human spirit to really be each other's keeper and look out and help equip people with information and knowledge. And we will come through this. And I hope, my belief is we're going to come through smarter and wiser and more compassionate.
I certainly hope that's the case. And I think we can all learn from the past 18 months if we really embrace those lessons. You're exactly right. And such an important point you made that there are so many people in our community who are in recovery, who are living their best life because of the organizations you're helping with, organizations like Carol's and others in the community, that we shouldn't lose sight of the hope that's there.
Yep. Must have hope always.
Yes. So thank you again, Keva, for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Next Tuesday, my guest will be Deanna Frierson, who is a local site clinician. And we're going to be talking about nurturing our mental health in a chaotic world, because we really have a lot of chaos around us. So hope you can join us for that. And just really grateful to have all of you with us for our conversation today. And Keva, thank you so much.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you,
You all
everybody.
take care out there.
Thanks. Bye.